Hey folks, Nas here again. Got another leveling guide for you. In this guide we're going to be going over the Acolyte Necromancer. Currently level 64 right now, but we've got a lot of minions that we carry around with us. As you can see, we've got, what is this, 15, 19 skeletons, and the bone golem, we got 20 there, and then we can also summon roughly about 20 wraiths. At any given time, you'll see that this will eventually work up to close to 20 is when they start dying off, I believe. Yeah, see, they hit up to about 21 and they start dying off and replenish. So we roughly keep about 40 minions up at one given time. Now I've got the summon wraiths on auto cast with the numlock trick right there, and it does pretty good actually. I didn't really have any problems leveling this one or making the leveling guide either. It's been a really fun build again, much like the Mage build. The Mage build was really fun. I actually kind of like ranged builds, pet builds anyway. That's typically what I play when I play different games. But anyway, let's get into it. Let me turn off the wraiths so they're not going to bother us here. Let that stop summoning. There we go. Those will die off in a second. But anyway, with this particular build, you summon all of your skeletons. So we're going to be running the summon skeleton, skeleton mage. I chose to run the bone golem, summon wraith, and then we're going to be using transplant. Now bone golem, we will not actually be placing passives, because we're going to be placing passives in Rip Blood. Because our transplant will actually cast Rip Blood, and I'll show you that here shortly. Sorry if my voice sounds a little funky, allergies or something messing with me today. But in transplant, which I'll go over, I can go over it now because it really doesn't matter. But in transplant, we want to get over and hit Dance of Blood. That way it casts with a max of 3 Rip Bloods at once. So we hit the 1 in Acolyte's Fever, 3 in Dance of Blood, and then as I was leveling, I actually came over and caught Last Laugh, and I only did the 1. Came over here and caught Simulacrum, 1 point in there, Purgatory with the 1 point, and I came down here and I got 3 in the Ivory Court to give me a maximum number of bone minions. So it gave me 3 more bone minions when I cast Transplant. So each time I cast Transplant, I get a bone minion. And I can actually have a max of 4 because there's your first one there, and then you get plus 3 more bone minions right there. So the bone minions are these little red ones right here on the end. They don't have a whole lot of health, so they die off pretty quickly, but you are transplanting, you know, every time it's off cooldown. You're pretty much transplanting all over the place. So those little guys are up constantly, helping out what they can. And then, after I came down here and got Ivory Court, I came up, I put 3 of 3 in bone armor. I grabbed 2 of 2 out of plated bone. That way the bone armor effect goes up by 20%. And I came over here and grabbed 3 points in apostasy. For the extra 3 seconds of duration on bone armor, and that's transplant. Now, transplant, you're not going to specialize in it until 19, I believe. This one's 4, this one's 9, this one's 19, 34, and then 49 are what the specialization levels are. But in the first one, when you first enter the game as your Acolyte and you're leveling from level 1, you have Rip Blood available to you, and you're just going to put that in your auto attack location down here in this first slot, and that's what you'll use as your attack. And then as soon as you get skeletons, summon skeleton, you're obviously going to start summoning those, and I believe you can have 2 up at one time. 3. You can have 3 up at one time from the very beginning. And then at level 4, you're going to be doing Rip Blood, and on Rip Blood, we are going to go and grab 2 in the Arcane Absorption because we want to get over here as quickly as possible. Actually, hang on. You want to grab Eviscerate first. That way you actually start doing blood splatters. It's a 100% chance for a blood splatter, at least 1 blood splatter. And then you have the 2 in Arcane Absorption, 1 in Rip Spirit, which changes the physical damage to necrotic damage. And then you've got the health granted is now going to be ward granted. So the health that you get off of Rip Blood is going to be giving you ward now, because this is going to be a ward generator. After you get over here, you want to drop down here and you want to do the minimum amount of points to hit all of these nodes down here. So you're going to put 2 in Crimson Flood, and then you're going to grab this 1 point in Blood Infusion, so that way the Blood Splatter grants your minions Blood Infusion, which is a buff for your minions that increases their damage by 30% for 4 seconds, which is really good because Transplant is on a 4-second cooldown. So you're constantly, you're going to want to transplant every 4 seconds. That way Blood Infusion stays up on your minions. And you don't actually have to be on top of your minions for the buff to take place. So it's that way you're not right in the mix. You can actually be outside the fight, which is where you're going to be most of the time anyway. And you can transplant near your minions to buff them. Let's see. So we got the 1 point there. Then you want to go and grab your Necrotic Unity, which your Blood Splatter deals more damage for each minion you currently control. Well, we can have up to about 40 minions, so it's pretty nice. You put 2 points there for the 4% damage increase per minion. So Blood Splatter can actually do some significant damage when you land. Come down here, grab the Infused Frenzy for the attack speed, cast speed. Doesn't really affect you a great deal, but we want to grab the Physical Leech here as well. That way your minions get a little bit of leech back from their physical damage and stuff. And that is it for Rip Blood. Now we're going to go into Summon Skeleton. On Summon Skeleton, you want to get to all the nodes that give you an extra skeleton as quickly as possible. And it doesn't really matter which direction you go first. So you can see here, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here. So what I did is I literally just came up here, grabbed 2 points in Unbound Necromancy, grabbed my 1 point in Grave Walkers for my first skeleton. Then I dropped straight down, grabbed 2 points in Necrotic Conviction, 1 point in Hollow Walkers for your second maximum number of skeletons. Then I came over here and I put 2 points into Unholy Rage, and then got my last skeleton with marrow walkers. Then after that, you want to start working on getting the rogues, adding rogues to it, because your rogues actually deal more damage than your warriors, because we want all of our minions to be melee. So we come down here and we get rid of the archers. That way we can summon warriors instead of archers, so that way they're melee. That way they can get that buff from your blood infusion on Rip Blood. Then I came up here and I put 1 extra point into Unholy Rage, so I can... No, we didn't do that. We came up here, sorry, put 2 points into Sweeping Strikes so we can get the Skeleton Rogues. After you get your Skeleton Rogues, then you want to come and put your 1 point into Unholy Rage, 1 point into Lone Guardian, which limits you to 1 warrior, and then 1 point in Mightier Than the Sword, which actually removes the warriors. So then you've removed your archers, you've removed your warriors, you're left with nothing but rogues, and you can see I can summon 11 rogues total. Now, there's a couple of pieces of gear and stuff that allow me to summon extra rogues, but for the most part, at this point, because you can summon 3 as the base, and we got 3 more. Where's the other one? Here. And we got 3 more, so we're summoning 6 just off the passive tree with Summon Skeleton. Then we go back and fill in this one, Sweeping Strikes, so you'll add another point in Sweeping Strikes and then add 2 points in Necrotic Conviction. And then you want to also add 1 point in Aegis of Death, sorry. That way when one skeleton dies, another one is healed. So that way, hopefully they're not dying off as quickly anymore. This does help. And you can place this point at any time, really, because it's just a minor convenience is what it is. Because you're going to be summoning skeletons, especially on heavy hitting bosses, you're going to be summoning them kind of regularly. On trash mobs and stuff, not so much. They'll stay alive quite a bit. Let's see, we've already gone over Transplant. Now at 34 you can specialize Summon Wraith, but you get Summon Wraith, I don't remember what level you get Summon Wraith at. Where did we get that from? We got that from, I believe we got that from the Necromancer tree. I don't remember where we got it. I think so. I think when you master in Necromancy, you get Summon Wraith as that specialization skill. So once you specialize in Necromancer, you get to Summon Wraith, because there's the skeleton mage there. So you have to have 5 points in Necromancer to even get to skeleton mage at that point. So what we're gonna do, where was I at? Here we go. Let's see. So, Summon Wraith. In Summon Wraith, you want to head off over to the right. That way we can summon 3 Wraiths. Summon 3 additional Wraiths, I should say, sorry. So we come up here, we grab the one in Locus of Resurrection. Words are hard. Locus of Resurrection, and then we're going to grab, I put 3 points in here right away. You could only put 2, that way you could get to this a little sooner. But you're going to have 3 points in Dark Scythe anyway, for melee attack speed from the Wraiths. The faster they attack, the more damage they do. Then you're going to put the 1 point in Echoes inside, and then you're going to drop down here and grab Army of Wraiths for 3 more Wraiths. So the description says here that there is no limit on the number of wraiths that you can control at once, and that is correct, but they do die off fairly quickly. And as you saw earlier, we could summon 4 times before those wraiths started dying off. So there is a time limit. I guess they start dying off at about 20 seconds or something. Let's see, so about 24 seconds I guess they start dying off, because there's a 6-second cooldown on it. So at about 24 seconds they start dying off again. Of course, then you're resummoning at that point, just refreshing. But you're able to summon 6 per cast. Yeah, so it's 3 there, 3 there, so you're able to summon 6 wraiths at a time per cast. Then, after you get those nodes, you can come over here and I put 2 points in Reapers for the base damage to get to the cast speed and the mana efficiency. Just on the summoning cast speed, the summoning mana efficiency, Wraithbringer. So 4 of 4 there. And then you come up and you drop in all your last points into Necrotic Hunter for the health leech and the necrotic damage. And that'll finish off Summon Wraith. And then you got the Summon Skeleton Mage, which again, you get Summon Skeleton Mage once you put 5 passive points in your mastered Necromancer tree. And then you'll have that available to you, and you can specialize the Summon Skeleton Mage at level 49. This slot is available. Now, in this tree here, the main thing that you're wanting to get to quickly is this node right here, which turns your mages into Death Knights. That way they're in melee range rather than a ranged attack. So you're going to drop down here with 1 point into Cellar Mortis, 1 point into Shadow Wardens, and then 1 point into Death Knights. And then from here, you want to come back over to Cellar Mortis and at least put 2 more points in here, so you can drop down and get the Order of Death, which gives you 1 additional mage. So now you have 4 of your Death Knights instead of 3. And then you can come back and finish filling in Cellar Mortis. So you have 5 of 5, and then do 3 of 3 on Grey Merchant. And then I came over and I did Putrid Essence for the poison chance. So you've got 4 Death Knights applying poison with every hit, because you get it up to 100%. And then you get the attack speed and cast speed. Mainly yours is going to be attack speed, because we don't have any casters at this point anymore, for an extra 20%. So that way they're hitting 20% faster, applying those poison stacks 20% faster, on top of the physical damage that they're doing anyway. And that is it on the specialization skills. So now for passives. So on the passives, I decided to put 23 points in the Acolyte base class. So on the Acolyte base class, we're going to put 8 points into the Forbidden Knowledge. The main reason is for the intelligence, because intelligence affects everything that we use. So if we come over here and hover over the Summon Skeletons and hit Alt, you can see there at the bottom, intelligence increases the damage of Summon Skeleton by 4% per point of intelligence. And I currently have 48 intelligence. So that's a pretty significant increase in damage from those. So stacking intelligence is a necessity in this build. That way you can stack as much base damage as possible. And it affects everything. You can see right here, Skeleton Mage, Intelligence, Even the Bone Golem, intelligence, the Summon Wraith, intelligence, and Transplant, intelligence. And everything is damage per point of intelligence. Right there's damage per point, and then also health per point. Even though we don't have the Bone Golem specialized, he still gets the 20 health per point of intelligence and the 4% increase of damage per intelligence. So intelligence is a key stat to stack on this particular build. So then after this, I came up here and put 4 points into Mania of Mortality for the ward gained on nearby deaths. So every time one of your Wraiths, because your Wraiths are going to be dying off more than your Mages and Skeletons. So every time the Wraiths die, I get 52 points of ward. So currently at level 64, I'm noticing that my ward goes up to a little over 1,000 once I'm in a pretty decent battle, with the Wraiths dying off and things like that, which is pretty nice. But I only put 4 points in that. You can put more if you want, but I don't think it's necessary at this point. Like, I mean, I'm only 64. I hadn't even leveled this up all the way to 100 yet. That may end up changing once I get deep into end game, but this is only a leveling guide. This is getting you to end game. That way you can make the build what you want at end game, but this is still going pretty strong. Let's see. So anyway, we got the 4 points there, and then I came over here and put 5 points into Dark Rituals for the attack and cast speed. It also applies to the player as well for 10 seconds on minion skill use, but that is a useless thing because the only thing that we're doing to attack is Transplant. That's the only thing that we're actually casting, unless one of our minions die and we need to recast those. But that's it. That's the only attack that we're actually doing. The minions are doing all the work. And then I came up here, I came over here and grabbed Unnatural Preservation for the ward retention and the protections. And then came up here and grabbed Soul Aegis for the increased minion armor and protections per level. So for every level, their armor and protections go up by 4%. Then once you master in Necromancer, you actually want to drop down and put 8 points into Lich. This is going to give you another 16 intelligence. That's the whole reason we came down here, is to get these 8 points into Crippling Insight on the Lich tree to increase that intelligence, more damage. Then all of the rest of your points are going to go in Necromancer. So first you want to put your 8 points into the Risen Army. Again, it's just damage and attack speed is what we're going for there. I put 1 point into Blood Armor, mainly so we can get to Mortal Tether. And then once we get to Mortal Tether, we've got to work our way to get up to Unbound Necromancy. So we have to put in, I put in 5 points into Reclamation of Souls for the ward retention and the ward granted on minion death. So we get 35 ward on minion death. Again, these guys down here, the Wraiths, they die off very quickly. So again, that's buffing your ward. And then we needed 1 extra point to reach this node right here. So I dropped 1 point into Cursed Blood just for a little extra damage. And then we put 1 point into Unbound Necromancy, that way we can get another skeleton. So after this, I came over and put 8 points into Unearthed Arms for the melee physical damage and the increased minion physical damage. So it's kind of a double dip on the damage. You get 8 points to the base physical damage, and then you get a 40% increased on the minion physical damage, because we're wanting to buff the minions as much as we can. So after this, we came up here. I dropped 3 points into Tyrant, so that's going to increase the player's health, the character's health, by 9%. But the whole reason was to get to Tyrant's Legion. So we put 3 points there, and then you can put a couple of points into Cling Life, or you can go over here and put points into Frantic Summons, whichever you want, just to get you up here to put 2 points into Tyrant's Legion. This again gives you 2 more skeletons. So at this point, without the gear, I believe we're up to 9 skeletons. I think there's a couple of pieces of gear that give me 2 extra skeletons. I do believe. We'll look at that in just a minute. But anyway, you're up somewhere around 9 or 10 skeletons at this point. Then after that, I came over and dropped 5 points into Frantic Summons, again for attack speed. Excuse me, the minion attack speed is what we're grabbing here. And then that gets us also to River of Bones. You want the 5 of 5, again for the crit damage, crit chance on the minions, and the crit strike damage leech, so that way they're leeching some health, and a little minion freeze rate. So after this, I actually came back over here and I started putting points into Cling Life to give me a little more defense. So the vitality adds, I believe, the void, necrotic, and poison. So you see there the vitality for the player and then for the minions. So vitality, if we look over here and hover over vitality, it grants 15 void protection, necrotic protection, and poison protection. So my plan is to max this out, giving me, what is that going to be? 6, so it'd be 8 vitality and 8 and 15. Oh my god, we're doing online math. It's going to be awful. So roughly about 130, I think, of these protections. These 3 protections right there, which is going to be nice. Anytime that you can raise these protections, it's definitely going to help you go farther. Then after this, we're going to come back over here and we're going to start dropping points into Heresy, again for the intelligence. That's going to give us 10 more intelligence on top of the 48 that we already have. And granted, you can even get more stacking it on your gear as well, which we'll go over in just a little bit. We're going to put 10 points in here. Now there is one last node that will give you 1 more skeleton mage, which we do want to get, but it's not a necessity to rush it. So once you get to this level here, you're going to start playing around with your gear. You're getting deeper into the end game. You're running monoliths and arenas, so you might be changing some of these points around to accommodate what you're lacking on your gear. But ideally you want to grab all the damage nodes out of here, and you want to put as much defensive shards on your gear. But anyway, 10 of 10 in Heresy. And you can come up here and you can put 3 points into the Blades of the Forlorn, and then 3 points into the Rite of Undeath to grab the 1 point in Disciplines of Necromancy to grab that last mage. Once you grab this last mage, I would suggest putting 5 points into Veins of Malice. So anytime you cast a spell, which you're going to be casting Summon Wraith and Transplant all the time. You'll physically cast Transplant, Summon Wraith will be on autocast, that numlock autocast. But that'll grant you 10 haste, for 5 seconds, because you can see there it only adds 1 second per point. So they'll have haste half the time, which is good. Then after those 5 points there, I would suggest dropping down and finishing Rite of Undeath. That way you can get some more protections going on your character and everything. As you can see, even at 64, I'm really low on all of those. But I've made it through, what did I make it? I made it up to 20 in the Monolith of Fate before I died. 19. Made it to 19 before I died. Which is pretty decent, I think, at level 64, at least what I've been doing when making these guides for leveling. But anyway, you want to finish off Rite of Undeath, and then I believe you're going to have 7 points left, and I think you can finish off Blades of the Forlorn. If there's any points after you finish those off, I would drop them right here into the Moonlight Pyre for just that flat necrotic and fire damage. That way you're getting as much damage as you can out of your minions. And then that's going to finish off the passives. Now for gear, it's really easy as you're leveling to stay geared. Because the main things you're going to be looking for are health for yourself, but you want to find, so at 23 you want to start looking for this body armor, the Sanguinus. I'm probably not saying that right. But this is what's going to allow you to keep maintaining your ward, because you can see there the 20% of current health lost per second, 20% of missing health gained as ward per second. So it's going to drain your health and it's going to turn it into ward. That's the whole reason that we are doing this. Of course, we're immune to bleeds at low health, which we stay at low health. As you can see down here, I've only actually got 81 health out of 626, but I also have 679 ward. So the ward seems to be pretty decent. But you can see that I'm wearing a few other unique pieces. These are not required. The only one that's actually required is the body piece for the ward generation. Now you could argue the fact that this hollow finger would be a necessity, because it at the bottom there it says 1+1 maximum skeleton, so it adds another skeleton, which is nice to have that other skeleton, but it's not a necessity. And I'm currently in the process of working with the gear to where I'm probably going to start eliminating these probably in the next few levels, because I believe I can probably get more damage and protections out of my minions and out of my gear by not having the uniques. They seem to be dropping off a little bit. So I'm looking at that in the next probably 6 to 10 levels to start getting rid of these. But I had these in my inventory before even creating this character. They dropped on other characters. But I had them. I figured I'd use them for leveling, just to see how they worked and how they played out, and they've done really good. It's been a really nice smooth leveling. As you can see, we've got all 3 of the pebbles set pieces here. Now granted, the set bonuses aren't anything that are earth shattering. I mean, the 5% chance to replenish 1 potion when Bone Golem hits an enemy. So we got the Bone Golem on the action bar there. and then your summoned skeletons deal an additional plus 10 fire, cold, and lightning damage. Of course, anytime you can get extra damage is always good. But this isn't like earth-shattering stuff here. There's also a headpiece that I do not have, and it has not dropped for me yet. The headpiece is called the Bone Clamor's Barbute, but it doesn't start dropping until level 65. So hopefully I'll start seeing that next level. I've only got a little bit of level left down here at the bottom before I see that. But as you're leveling, you want to look for minion stats on your gear. So you want mainly minion dodge, and then of course any kind of minion physical damage, melee damage, necrotic damage. If I don't know that there is one that says necrotic, but I know the physical and the melee for sure. There's only a few pieces that it can actually go on. So the catalyst has the minion damage, and then the gloves can have the I put the physical damage on the gloves. So you can easily see if you open your crafting window, forge, and you type in minion. So you don't have anything in here, and you can type in minion, and you can see what all suffixes you can use to buff your minions. The main ones we're going to be using is minion damage, which is a suffix, so it'll go on this side, and minion physical damage, which is a prefix, and it'll go over here. And then that allows you to put 2 stats at the bottom for your character. So whether you're going to put health, we have health, which is a suffix, so you can put that over here underneath your 2 minion stats. And then if you wanted to put intelligence over here, because we want to stack intelligence as well. So there's pretty good ways that you could do that. Now you want to also, as you're getting higher in level, you want to try and stack some protections. I've reached that point at level 60-ish to where I notice that I can be fairly easily killed if I'm not paying attention, by elements. So like lightning and poison and fire and things like that. You just don't want to stand in those areas. Usually you have enough time to move, and typically Transplant gets you right out of the way. It's probably your quickest, as long as it's off cooldown. So like the fire golems, they put that big circle, orange circle on the ground. You've got time to run out of it. The only thing with those guys is they attack you from off screen, and sometimes you're not sure which direction from. But once you can get kind of close enough to see them, you can, command your minions to go attack by putting your cursor over what you're wanting them to attack and press A, and they'll run right to that and attack it. So you can actually get close enough to that bone golem, and you can say, go get him, and run away, and they'll go kill him. And they kill him pretty quickly, actually. So there's, as long as you know where the damage is coming from, you want to try to avoid it. So a lot of times you can run in to a mob when you're first engaging. You actually run into the mob and then jump back or teleport backwards. It'll drop the rip blood and the splatter pools, the splatter and everything on the ground. Your minions get buffed and they kill the targets pretty quickly. I really haven't had any issues with the minions killing things, unless there are a lot of mobs around with heavy AoEs, like the fire golem. So like if you get into an area or get into a situation where you've drug 3 fire golems together, you may have a hard time. But for the most part, this is a really fun build, a real easy build to level. It's got a lot of wiggle room as you're leveling and stuff. Now granted, as I've mentioned, I'm level 64. I can feel the wiggle room shrinking. But you can see our stats here, our minion stats. I'll just let you I'll show all these other little stats here. You can see I have 0 dodge, I have 0 glancing blow, 0 block, no block effectiveness, no stun avoidance, none of that stuff. The only thing I've got is ward retention, and all of these are below 20%. You can be one-shot if you're not paying attention. You can be one-shot if your internet connection or the load-in isn't finished loading in. I've noticed lately when I load into a Monolith of Fate, I've learned before I start running off, Transplant, because almost every time there's mobs right around you as soon as you transplant, as soon as you get in the Monolith of Fate. Now hopefully they change that, they fix that or something in the next patch. I know I've posted on the forums, and there's other people that have posted on the forums about this very same issue, to when you enter a zone, things aren't spawning, and you run into the zone a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're surrounded by too much, and you kind of get overwhelmed. So hopefully they address that pretty soon. But anyway, let's see, we've covered the uniques. Oh, idols. We didn't cover any idols yet. So I've kind of got a hodgepodge of idols going right now. And what you want to look for is damage idols. So as you can see, this one here, this Ornate Bone idol, it has the increased minion physical damage on it. You want to have that type of a stat, or you want to go with the base critical strike chance. This one would probably be better. You know, maybe have a couple of these and then one of these or something. But what you definitely want to have is one that gives you the chance for your minions to apply Mark for Death on hit. And 5% is enough. In the run-in, there's enough minions attacking that it's going to go off with every group. That's the main thing. Now, you can get it on this Immortal Idol, like I have, but ideally you want to try and find it on one of these large Immortal Idols. That way it just takes up the space here, and then you can have more of the idols here with that skeleton critical strike chance on it, because that would definitely be better. But unfortunately, these are what I've had drop for me. I haven't really had any upgrades drop. This Mark for Death one seems to be a little more rare than these others, because I haven't had another one drop since this one dropped. And I've been looking at all of them. And of course I've just got this little guy filled in here, mainly for the elemental protection. It's the only thing that's doing. But anyway, let's see, what else? Are there any other... So you're going to want also for stats. I know I've kind of jumped around and I apologize about that. It's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm trying to get this put out. So you want your minion dodge rating. You want your minion physical damage, minion melee damage. You want to increase your own health, because increasing your health does increase your ward as well, because it's taking your 20% of your lost health as ward. That's what this unique does. you want a little bit of mana regeneration. Otherwise, you're going to be mana starved a lot. This 9% that you see on my gloves, that's all the mana regeneration that I have on any of my pieces. And I'll hover over these and let you see them. But you can see I'm stacking intelligence. I've stacked some armor, my own health. Of course, these pieces here give you damage and intellect. Each one of these gives you 3 intellect, and then each one gives you 100 protection. So this one gives you 100 lightning, 100 fire, 100 cold, and then it gives you a base stat as well. So this is a +3 melee cold, which doesn't do us any good. A +3 melee fire, it's okay. And then the lightning, I mean, they're all added damage, but they're not like earth-shattering damage. And then of course the ring here gives you the extra skeleton and the necrotic damage, which does help because we do necrotic damage. We do necrotic and physical. And then of course we have a chance to chill on hit, which is for us, not the minions, which doesn't do us really any good because we're not doing enough to trigger that all the time. Let's see here. So the minion dodge, health, you see I'm stacking elemental protection there, minion health, minion damage. Don't really need to stack the minion health that much. I mean, it helps for sure if it's already on the gear, but ideally you want the dodge. Of course, damage over time does nothing really for us because we're not doing that. But you can see on this catalyst, the base stat gives you intelligence and then ward per second. So you want to try and look for this copper aegis. That way you can get those base stats on it there at the top. And then of course the necklace and the rings, you want to look for the turquoise because you can see that base stat there, minion damage and minion health. And then this one on the necklace is minion damage and minion critical strike chance. So you're actually getting extra minion stats as the base stat on the gear. Same thing with the helm. You get the increased minion health as well as the base stat on that helm. Now as far as the boots, now these boots you don't get them until level 60. You can see there at the bottom it says require level 60, but it gives you an extra 14% on ward retention. The movement speed is the 2 stats that I went for on this here. Now as far as the boots, you could probably pick anything else that you wanted to as long as it had the movement speed. You could even add movement speed to the affixes there if you wanted to. The gloves, I really haven't found anything other than these here that give you the +75 armor. But you can see I've only got 5 crafted pieces? 6 crafted pieces on. Now, I only have one of these rings. I don't know if wearing a second ring like this actually gives you another skeleton or not. I don't have another one to test that out. I would imagine it does not give you an extra skeleton. It probably cancels itself out just having 2, but I don't know. And I won't know until I get another one to be able to test it, or if I see it on the forum somewhere. But I haven't gone looking for it because it's not, again, it's not an earth-shattering thing. But anyway, that is the Acolyte Necromancer leveling guide. I apologize again for being stuffy and tired. But I wanted to get this out as quickly as I could, at least get it recorded tonight, so maybe I can edit it some and get it out first thing tomorrow morning for the weekend. But anyway, this is it's going to be 4th of July weekend, and I wish everybody a happy Independence Day and hope everybody stays safe and enjoy the weekend. And hopefully folks enjoy the guide as well. I don't see a whole lot of necromancers on the leaderboard. I wanted to do a pet build because I haven't done one since I did my what is that, Primalist Beastmaster build, pet build, which I really want to do another one, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. Probably, I don't know. I don't even want to say. But anyway, that is the Acolyte Necromancer Minion build leveling guide. You folks take care, have a good weekend, and I will talk to you in the next video. Happy hunting.